All right, welcome back. And today we're going to deal with a past exam paper which was written in the Gauteng province, June 2024. And then question 1, it was about analytical geometry. So it read as follows. In the figure below, A and its coordinates are provided, B and the coordinates are provided, are points on a line segment. So this is point A and this is point B, right? And then what are we told? We are now told these questions that 1.1, determine the length of AB. So when we want to determine the length of AB, we're going to use the what? We're going to use the formula, the distance formula, whereby now we're going to say AB is equals to open square root of, now we say XB minus XA squared plus open bracket YB minus YA close bracket squared. There will be a square root here. So our x at point B is 4, so we write 4 here. Minus comes with this formula, so minus, and then the x at point A is negative 5, so we open the bracket, negative 5, close bracket, then we write a squared, plus our y at point B is negative 2, open bracket, negative 2, minus our y at point A is 2, close bracket, squared, then we do that. Now, when I come here and I say negative times negative, it gives me a positive, and 4 plus 5 gives me 9. So in other words, now I've got 9 squared plus negative 2 gives me negative 4. So I've got negative 4 squared. So there's that square root. Now, when I say 9 squared, I get 81, and negative 4 squared gives me 16. So in other words, I've got 81 plus 16, which gives me 97. So in other words, I've got square root of what? 97. So I can say, therefore, AB is equals to square root of 97. I can leave it in sad form since they didn't state whether to round off or which way to leave it. So it's fine. Then I get my 3 marks. And then from there, we go to question 1.2, where they say determine the coordinates of the midpoint of line AB. So we need to know the middle part of this line AB. And when you want a midpoint, you simply say the midpoint formula. What is the midpoint formula? Because we are using line A and point A and point B, we would say that XA plus XB divided by 2. We use a semicolon, then we say YA plus YB divided by 2. So our x at point A is negative 5, so we're saying midpoint AB is equals to, then we've got a negative 5 plus our x at point B is 4, so negative 5 plus 4 divided by 2, semicolon. Our y at point A is 2 plus our y at point B is negative 2, so open bracket, close bracket, then we do that, and then negative 5 plus 4, it gives me a negative 1. So in other words, we've got negative 1 over 2, semicolon, positive and negative, it gives us what? A negative. So here we've got 2 minus 2 divided by 2, like that. Here we are already done, so we write our negative half. Our x coordinate at the midpoint is negative half, and 2 minus 2 is equals to 0. 0 divided by 2 is equals to 0. So here it is equals to 0, meaning to say that when your x is negative half, your y is 0. Therefore, the midpoint of line AB are those coordinates which are written there. And just like that, done. Now they say that determine the gradient of line AB. When you want to determine the gradient, you use a gradient formula. And what does the gradient formula say? The gradient formula, we now say M represents gradient. So we say gradient AB is equals to YB minus YA all over XB minus XA. So now what am I going to do? I'm just erasing here so that I can have some space to perform the calculations. So I'm saying here my gradient of line AB is equals to my y at point B is negative 2, so we say negative 2 minus my y at point A is 2, minus 2, all over. My x at point B is 4, minus my x at point A is negative 5. So open bracket negative 5 there, which is equals to negative 2 gives me a negative 4, all over. A negative and a negative, when they multiply, it's a positive. So 4 plus 5 is equals to 9. So now we say that the gradient of line AB is equals to negative 4 over 9, of which is true. If you check this line here, it is a decreasing function. And then just like that, we are done. Then we now come to this last question, which reminds you of the importance of algebra. What does it say? It says point A undergoes a certain transformation. So we're being told that this point is going to change. Remember, transformation means change, right? All right. In your grade 9, you learned about transformation. You learned about what? 4 types of transformation. Number 1, you've got what we call translation. Another one, you call it reflection. Another one, you talk about reduction, or reduction and what do you call this? And enlargement. And last but not least, you talk about rotation. So when they say transformation, we must pay attention as to which type of transformation are they talking about. Point A undergoes a certain transformation to point A prime, such that the gradient of the line A prime B becomes undefined. So if we come back and we say that we've got A over B, for something to become undefined, the denominator must be 0. So A over 0, or if you say 7 divided by 0, if you go to your calculator, it will give you math error, which is undefined. So in other words, they're simply saying that on the coordinates which we have here, we had 4, right, which is 4 and what else? And 5. Here, this is the gradient. Remember the gradient of point A, B. Here, this denominator must become 0, meaning to say that when there is 9, there should be a 0, and then therefore it becomes undefined. But we've been told what makes it to become 0. What makes it to become 0 is that the transformation is for what? It's happening on point A. So then here the question is now saying that describe the transformation, right? I must describe the transformation that happens or that occurs for this denominator to become a 0. So this is very, very simple. Let me just show you what is meant by that. What's meant by that is this. In order for me to have my A to become, what do you call it? Okay, let me put it this way. When I spoke on the previous video, and I was speaking about the gradient of a horizontal line, with not as a vertical line. On a vertical line, I said that your gradient will be what? Will be undefined. Why? Why will you have an undefined gradient on a vertical line? If I'm having this, what do you call it, this Cartesian plane here, I have this Cartesian plane here. This is my x-axis, and that is my y-axis here. If here I'm saying that my x is 3, my y here is 1, I've got 2, 3, and then I get here, let's say this y is 10. Do you see that here at point A and point B, if I want to write the coordinates, I would say that my x is 3 here, and my y is 1. If I go to point B, I would say that my x is still 3, however, my y has changed, it has become 10, right? And then I would say, if I wanted the gradient of line AB, I would say that gradient of line AB is equals to my y at point B is 10, minus my y at point A, it is 1, all over. My x at point B is 3, minus my x here is what? 3. 10 minus 1, it would give me 9. 9 over what? 3 minus 3 gives me 0. So I would have 9 over 0. Therefore, it would be undefined. So in other words, what am I going to do? Here my A, here. This is the -5. But in order, since we have been told that there is a transformation and then they indicated by this A prime, when does it become undefined? We are now going to count, moving in this way, in this direction. 1. So from here, -5 to here, to 0 here, there are 5 units, right? 5 units. Now, what do I need to do? Now I need also to count how many units from here to where this B is here. My X at point B is 4. So I'm saying here, if I go on top here, I need to move my A from -5 to come, and my A should now become +4 here. So from here, from the negative side to the point of origin, I've got 5 units. And from the point of origin to where 4 is, there are 4 units. In other words, what has happened? I have moved how many times? 5 plus 4. So if I'm to give the answer, I would say that A, right? A has translated, or let me say point A, rather. Point A has translated 9 units to the right. That is the answer that they needed when they say describe the transformation that occurred. It has moved how many units? This 5 and that 4, 5 plus 4, which is 9. Now, let's test. If I'm now saying that my A prime, so here at this point, I would say A prime. Remember, this is translation, the transformation which occurred. I would say that the new coordinates of A prime are what? X is 4 and Y is still the same, which is 2. And then if I were to look for the gradient, I would say that gradient of this new A prime B is equal to, right? My Y at point B is -2 minus my Y at point A is 2 all over. My X at point B is 4 minus my X at point A prime is what? Is 4. -2 gives me what? It gives me -4 over 4 minus 4 gives me what? 0. Then I would have undefined. If you put this into your calculator, it would be undefined. Hence I said that, but they were not asking for me to prove using the gradient formula. They wanted to talk about me describing the transformation. So the transformation is that this A moved 9 units to the right. That is what they were asking, right? So the section about analytical, it was done based on the paper that was written in June 2024. If you found this video to be helpful, please do consider subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing. I'm going to record another video on analytical. You don't want to miss it. Why? Because analytical is so vast, it has got different types of questions. So I have chosen about 2 to 3 papers which have got different questions, which have got different demands, so that you can be prepared for the exam. So please watch everything. Thank you very much.